suppose we should get started in our recollections of our friend and some of your relatives, some of the relatives of Bill Horn might have something to say here too. I met Bill in about 2001, and I met him thanks to my colleague Dick Gildry, and Bill had this way of sort of pursuing things and people when he wanted some sort of an outcome. And that was fine with me, by the way. I was very happy with that because I quickly learned that he had skills that I do not possess. That's for damn sure. Amen to that. And so very quickly he wound up working on putting on a new front door, replacing 2 bathrooms, working on a kitchen. Although these enterprises were not without their occasional problems, as I assume everyone can imagine. In fact, on several occasions we were so much at loggerheads that I was afraid, blood might be shed. But it wasn't. And part of his problem, part of my problem too, I suppose, was that he would meet people in, sometimes these were people that he had encountered at AA. And in some occasions, these were people who had successfully turned their lives around and were looking for a new start and were doing all the things that you were supposed to do. And in some places, they were not. And of course, when they were not, it was the source of considerable difficulty. And sometimes I felt sorry for Bill because he had a hard time finding people that he could rely on to do some of this work. And there was a lot of anguish when it came to some of these things. In fact, Dr. Gildry knows of one occasion where if he hadn't intervened and worked out a balanced and fair compromise, things weren't very pretty. But thank you, Dick. You intervened at precisely the right time, and everything in the end worked out. I suppose I want to be frank here. I was talking with Donovan the other day, and Donovan knew Bill longer than I did. And we were sort of exchanging reminiscences. And I never knew him to take a drink. He was sober as a judge when I got to know him. And that was something that anyone who overcomes that, I think, is entitled to all the credit in the world. That's a major undertaking, no matter who you are and what your problems are, to accomplish that. And I think it was also with Bill, he took meetings seriously. He talked some of the talk, of course, one day at a time, things like that. But I think it also led him to a better understanding of himself. I think it led to an easier time of dealing with other people and understanding other people from their motives. And he had a ways to go, I suppose, but he was clearly making progress. And I was explaining this to Chris over the phone, and she made the remark that sort of stuck with me, that he went out at the top of his game. And there's a lot of truth to that. He had a good job. He was getting along with his colleagues and his employer. Everything was going the way it should have been going. And for this to happen at precisely the time that it did just shows how unfair all of this is, I'm afraid. But in any event, I miss him. I miss him all the time. I'm still having trouble imagining that I'll never see him again, that he won't be just across the street as he's been across the street since 2006. But there it is. And I'd like to open the floor to anyone else who has anything to say.
Linda?
Go up there because he wants to.
Oh,
No,
go.
go stand up.
Where's the tissue? Don't worry, I got it. What was that?
Spray him right there.
I didn't think of that. Bill appeared in my life, I can't remember the date exactly, but a few years before that, as a student at Boston P. And he arrived and he was quite a presence, and he remained quite a presence. Let me give you one example. First class, I think it was with me, course in the American Revolution or something, advanced class, serious stuff. And so I laid out what had to happen for this to be a serious thing. And he leaned over to Lisa Joy and he said out loud, so that no one in the room could miss it, he didn't know how to speak softly. He never learned that. So he said, my God, this guy's some kind of, he wants us to do some kind of scholarship. It was something serious about it. And he was almost offended and surprised. Over the time he was struggling and the time he was trying to get through school, he came to live with us in our house, in the basement, which he rebuilt according to his specs. Not according to the two daughters that had previously lived down there. So it's completely different. But in the process, I want to tell you one story that really meant a lot to me, that I think tells a lot about how his mind actually works. He wanted to pay us back because we were just letting him live. And Meredith didn't care. But anyway, one of the things he decided that he ought to do was pave our driveway.
I remember.
So this was wonderful. We couldn't just pave the driveway. That wouldn't work. He had been reading books about medieval engineering. Some of you know this, but he did. He went and constructed a medieval crane and sled system. No wheels, just big bulk wood and a winch. And he says to me, I will get us some stone and we will pave this driveway. And when we get done, we'll leave the cracks in there and it'll look like a ruined Roman road. Well, that's just the thing to get me going. So he went and acquired, at our expense, but it wasn't much, a bunch of buildings left over from when a bank downtown was torn down. So there's some granite and all kinds of stone, slabs. And they ranged in weight from 350 to 750 pounds, which he had delivered to our front yard and stacked up. And then over the next 9 months,
The ruins were
he and I would move one of these 700-pound things with this medieval sled across the front yard and place it on sand and try to get it even. Now, that sounds like a true pain in the... But in the end, it wasn't. In the end, what it was an enormous amount of fun built on a very interesting kind of mind. The last thing I want to say about Bill, besides missing him and What always amazed me about Bill was his generosity. He didn't have to do any of this stuff. And he was always telling us that, you know, nobody ever does anything just because people want to do good things. People blah, 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 blah. You ever hear that line? And there he was, this walking contradiction to his own outlook. And no matter what I said to him, I couldn't get him to see that he was really a very generous and thoughtful person who knew how to do these things. Right, Donovan? Oh, yeah. But he would never admit it. He was always the tough guy from New York, you know? And for all of that, I think I could say this. I loved him. You know, and that's not easy. I'm got New England upbringing. It's not easy for me. I love that man. And I'm really going to miss him. Always underestimated by people that didn't pay attention. The thing to do with Bill always was to pay attention. And anyway, thanks for coming, and this means a lot to me. Appreciate it.
I will fix my piece too. Use my electric 5 legs. I thought Bill was the most kind-hearted man, gentle in his feelings towards others. Now, he'd get an idea in his head, and he would not budge. And so to live with him, I'm sure was very difficult, because he wanted the best. Well, he lived in a house, but he lived upstairs, so he was very good about that. He wanted so much to help other people that he sometimes didn't realize that his idea of how to help someone was not the best way. So, but his sense of justice, taking up for the underdog, or someone who's being abused in any way, was just marvelous. I admired him so much for that kind of thing. And then the other thing about Bill was his desire to give us good food. It was as if we didn't carry the weight we carry. But he was always taking us to a new restaurant that he had found that had such wonderful food, and we just had to eat it. And he'd bring us things from these places that we didn't have a chance to go out with him. I can remember him bringing bread pudding from some Puerto Rican or Dominican or Latin. He was a Cuban. Was it a Cuban? And I mean, the slice was, I think we ate off it for a week, this piece of the pudding. So I will never go into a new restaurant and get spicy or exotic or new food without thinking about Bill. And so we'll hold him in our hearts. And I must correct my husband a little, because that Roman road was initially my idea. We were going to do bricks. Bill and I talked about this, because I wanted this idea, something a little different. But then he found stones that were better than the bricks, because the bricks would deteriorate so much quicker. And of course, those stones only cover the middle third of our driveway. So he had to create with cement blocks that looked like these stones to finish off the front of the driveway. And then he graded the back of the driveway and made sure that the water graded away from the house. And that's been how many years ago? And that driveway 6 inches, not 4. He did that job, so we will have Bill in our house forever.
But we can't sell it.
Oh, there'll be somebody
Crazy
will
enough
say,
to like that?
will see that and say, oh, we're gonna have that.
Thank you.
Am I next, I guess? As you said, I first met Bill back in '99. I just bought my house, and there's some things I wanted to do to the house, so I just put the word out. I'm looking for someone to not do it, but help me do it. So Bill fit that bill perfectly. So we started little projects here and there, and over the course of like 14 years, we really did a lot of work on my place. And with his help, it's just been every time I see some things we've done, I'll think of Bill. But he was a very unique person, and I truly will miss him. I don't have some experiences that y'all have had, but he's a good friend, and I would certainly miss him. My wife loved him, and she couldn't be here because she worked last night and was sleeping. So, but I would definitely miss him. What can you say about Bill other than just one of the most unique people I've ever met? So, it's not, and I truly, when you called me, it was really sad to hear that. Caught me off guard, and that was the last thing I expected, was to hear that news. But like I said, I'll miss him.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh yeah, that's what's so frustrating. You drive in and it's that's the driveway. Look how there it is, but that'll never happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. Well, I'm not much of a public speaker, so that's fine.
Bill and I used to drink together, smoke weed together. Some of that time was kind of dark, but we both got sober, which is, it's amazing, that either one of us got sober, really. If you knew Bill, you probably I would think, well, we had a tumultuous relationship. I would hang out with him till I got really sick of being around him, and then I would get a little perspective on it, and then we'd hang out again. We worked together. In fact, I didn't work on the big block section with him, but we finished with concrete the rest of the driveway. And during that time, we had some knockout, drag-out fight about, I guess, Dr. Gildrey. And then I think I had to apologize to the Gildreys. But we were both really angry, and I think we kissed and made up during the same time period. The food, I remember the food thing. I remember him going on about Pecorino Romano cheese. It's like, all right, just make the macaroni and shut up. So, there was funny little things about him. We used to shoot together, so I'm going to have to find somebody else to shoot with now. We had a lot of fun doing that. And he used to go on about, he got a new gun and how great it was and how mine sucked. You know how it was. So. But I'm going to miss him. Thanks.
I guess if we're going down the road.
My name's Joanne. I'm from Kentucky, and Bill and I have known each other since probably the mid-90s. And I'm not sure I ever actually fit into his life exactly perfectly. I seem to be, all those years, maybe a little bit of a calming effect for Bill, because he would come and go and come and go and come and go. And I know everybody here. I know Gary and Donovan and the Gildreys, and I've been to your house and we took care of the blind dog. And it's just, I seem to be so immersed in his life over the years, and he was very clear on the way he wanted me to do things. I have a '65 Mustang in my garage that's courtesy of him. It's some point he was working on a dentist office and met a couple that had it and needed to get rid of it, and he was just sure that I was going to buy it. He just wouldn't have it any other way. I own it, and I'm still working on it. I'm not sure you have time for all the stories. You know, in that length of time, and we spent hours and hours and hours on the phone, and he was undoubtedly one of the smartest people I ever knew. And one of his favorite ways of starting a sentence was something would come up as a subject, and he would say, oh, do you know where that came from? Or do you know how that happened? Or do you know the story on that? And of course I didn't, but I knew I was going to. You know, he was a big part of my life. There were a couple times over the years that he would just get mad at me, and he'd throw me out of his life. And then it wasn't very long that he called me and he said, no, I really want you in my life. And one of the things that he always told me was that no matter who came and went in his life, from a female perspective, he told me that there was always a Joanne clause, that he always introduced the Joanne clause because I was going to be there and he wanted me there, so and I wanted to stay. So it's shocking, Chris, Shannon, Doug. One of the most important times that I ever spent was the time on Mattatuck. It's the first time I've been in New York. We had a great time. It was so much fun being immersed in the family. I felt like I knew you so well at the time already because some of the stories that Bill told me, I was just talking to Chris about the stories when they were growing up and the story of Shannon showing up in his life and the family's life and all the things that Doug could do. There really wasn't anything that Bill couldn't do, and there certainly wasn't anything that he didn't think he could do. I mean, even at my house, I look around and I see my storm doors and the things that he did for me, and he is and will continue to be one of the most important people in my life. I'm gonna cry. Growing up with Bill was a trip. I've known him longer than anybody in this room. It was never boring. He was the most interesting person. He did things that you probably don't want to know about. He was really, really a character, and yes, the smartest guy I ever met. Actually, probably too smart for his own good. Growing up, he was always smarter than the teacher, smarter than the nuns, smarter than the other kids in the class, and he could verbally cut them down like this. So what did they do? They beat him up after school. So I had a lot of those years growing up where kids would pick on Bill all the time because he was different. He was different. But he also, like you said, he could fix anything, do anything, always wanted to help. When he came to visit, he wanted to help me. He said, come on, let me do something. I can put a screen door on, but it's going to be made of bronze. And I'm going to use, this, whatever. And I said, oh, but I just want a screen door. It's at the home. I just want to go to Rickles and get it's a $199 screen door. No, you don't want that. You understand that if we put that in, it's going to not look good with the house, and you have to get. So I used to beg him not to help me. You guys were great. I remember him building the Roman Eider, the roadway up here, because he sent me pictures all the time of it, and he was really, really proud of that work that he did at your house. And thank you for letting him do that, because when he came to me, I'm like, let me just take you out. Come on, we'll go out to dinner. Let's go. Just don't fix anything, because I didn't have the kind of temperament that would deal with that, but he always did. And when he did come to my house and visit, he was so good to my kids. I don't know, it was a long time ago. But did he have the red Caddy convertible when he was here? Oh, this was the best, with the big fins, like a 1950-something convertible. And he put my 2-year-old son in there. He goes, come on, Doug. He put him in there, and he's like, check it out. That's another thing he always said, check it out. Check it out. He goes, look at this kid. I'll get him to stop crying, puts him in the car seat, and he's like, with the
the hood coming up, and the kids, yeah. But again, huge advocate for my children, for when they were growing up, if they had learning disabilities, and who were you talking to at the school? This is what you have to tell them. Even when Doug, our oldest, was becoming college age, send him to Austin Peay. Have him come down, get him an apartment, he can live there. He goes, I will rock his world. He'll pass every test. I'll be his personal tutor. He's such an advocate for children, and that part about him is incredible. And he loved you all very much in this room. Talked about you all the time. Everybody here talked about. And you were such a good support for him. And we're so proud of him, how he did come through all that stuff. And like, actually it was my brother Doug who said he went out on top. He said it to me. He went out on top of his game. The guy went out on top of his game. I'm so glad this didn't happen 15 years ago, because we were all been saying, ugh, you know. But he proved it to everybody, proved it especially to himself, that he can do it, and he did. And my parents will miss him tremendously. My mom was a really, really good friend of his. She wanted to be here, but we're having a big thing at home, like I said, and we'll all do this again. But that's why this is so important that it's on this, because we're going to show this at his memorial service at home too, to say, look at his friends down there, look what he did in Tennessee. But thank you so much. This means so much to us to be here. Thank you. I loved him too. We all loved him very much. Very much. And how can you not miss Bill? He was such a pain in the ass. You gotta miss him. Thank you. Thank you.
You gotta tell one Billy story.
I am not.
Can you tell one Bill story? Or can you handle it?
Anything about those shorts, maybe?
Can you explain those shorts you were wearing in that picture? Okay, Doug, let me say, Doug is a lot younger than Bill.
When I was young, he was big, he was 5 years older than me. And we had firecrackers and stuff like that. He was like, come on, go get daddy's chlorine out of it. We had a pool. Go get daddy's chlorine out of it. I think we had. And he had me and my friends smash it up with a hammer, the tablets. It was like, and then, he took my father's gas and the suntan lotion. I don't know, don't try it at home, 'cause I don't know the right mixtures. But he had it, and he goes, so we took a big spackle bucket with the lid, we dug a hole in the woods, we put it all together, put the lid on it, filled it up with dirt. He goes, in about 45 minutes, you're gonna hear something. We walked like a mile away, and boom! Like a hand grenade went off. There was a crater as big as this right here, and like this deep. Trees fell down, fire departments came, and he was like, wasn't that great? I'm like, that's my story. We will miss him. Thank you.
Wasn't that great?
Right on.
You gotta say one thing. Anybody else? She can't do it. Thank you.
Can you hold it? This was actually a rescue from some of your clearing out, and I discovered actually when I popped it open, this is why it's the rescue.
Oh,
Don't bang it.
Yeah.
you want me to hold it?
So this guy wants to slide down, so maybe just keep your hand there, keep it like maybe, if you just pinch it right here with your fingers beneath this. Yeah, right there. You're good. And we can edit this part out later. It's so funny, that story you were talking about Bill blowing us up, because that's one of the last stories that he told me was about this fun thing that he did when he was a kid. I can't remember how it is that we got on that subject. I mean, he did love blowing things up and shooting things. And so there were lots of instances where I heard stories about this kind of activity, but that was one in particular that he said that, I think he was saying your dad just didn't quite appreciate that particular skill, and he described it, just all the intensity of this, and I tried to say, well, I can kind of understand where your dad was coming from. He wasn't hearing that. Yeah, and so it's funny hearing all of you talk about Bill and how he did always want to help, and he would certainly get an idea in his head, because of course he saw the situation more completely than anyone else, any situation that he was in. He saw the situation more completely than anyone else there, and so he would immediately come up with a solution for whatever problem was there, and you basically just had to get out of the way and let him do it. You could argue, but it was pointless to argue with him because the guy had momentum. That's another cool thing. Dr. Gildred was talking about how he could fill up a space, and it's amazing how he could fill up a space. Even sometimes he would always, when he would call with the cell phone, when people call on cell phones, you see who's calling on the little caller ID thing, and I would see the name pop up, Bill Horn, and I could almost feel my hair blowing in the breeze. He was on the other end of the phone, and always I would answer the phone, hello, and he would say, "How you doing? This is Bill," and it was just, you knew that there was something big in the works whenever you get the call from Bill. But just an extraordinary person, and he definitely has made an impact on me. He's made an impact on this community. Someone with that kind of skill, and it's something that I didn't quite fully appreciate. It took me a while to really understand how smart Bill was with so many different things. And he has, on many occasions, made me very, very, very frustrated, maybe even angry is the word. But then he would turn around and do something so unexpected and so extraordinary that my jaw would just become unhinged. Just wondering how one person, how the vessel of a human body could contain such extreme energies. But he was really an extraordinary person, and he will be greatly missed. And I can't imagine growing up with Bill. I can't
It was
imagine
exhausting.
Bill.
But this is a little crooked now, sorry.
Y'all talk about, how smart he was, and he was a very smart man. But I also saw another side of him. He was very, very compassionate. He loved those animals. He loved those cats. I have all of them now, but I was with him the day when Claude, we all know about Claude. The day he found out Claude wasn't going to make it. The man held Claude in his arms and just was crying and saying goodbye. And that's the kind of person that he was. He wanted to be the big, strong guy, wanted to be the smart, but he also had a big heart. And if you walk out his house, where he lives, right there in the concrete, he wrote the words, "Do something good." And that's the Bill that I want to remember. The kind, compassionate, do something good.
That's a wrap.
Well, if no one has anything else, I thank all of you for coming, and it's been a great opportunity to share our memories. As I said, I still can't grapple with the fact that we're never going to see him again. But
Ray, before you say goodbye, I want to say one more thing. Bill talked about his family, and you all meant such a great deal to him that I am so glad that I've gotten to meet you and see you in the face and know that he wasn't telling us a story. You're good people.
Thank you.